More than just what I wore this week, new fragrances. Let's talk about it.
Here's some codes to save you some cash on your next Middle Eastern niche or designer fragrances.
What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. Today we're going to be talking about basically hidden gems of the week, etc. Before you click away, I get it. Weekly rotation videos, for the most part, is more so about like finding out people's, agendas and what did you do this week, but this is going to be a different series. I wear fragrance every single day. And this series, it's technically not that different from a weekly rotation series. However, my weekly rotation always consists of new fragrances. I always wear new fragrance every day. I hardly ever have a signature scent anymore, considering the fact that I'm committed to this and I'm always picking up new fragrances and I'm always testing fragrances. Some days, if it doesn't live up to a certain longevity, I end up wearing a second fragrance, and some days where though it might have lasted long or whatever, I still wear something else to bed, etc. The point of me saying all of that is the fact that there's going to be new fragrances in this video every single week. There should be, at the very least, 5 fragrances. And at the very least, some of those fragrances, you'll be able to get a first glimpse and first impression, or more than just a first impression if I've already done one, potentially even a more in-depth review before a full one if one is coming through this series. So although it is a technically weekly rotation, it's much more than just that, at least here on this channel, okay? And speaking of which, we're gonna be talking about a lot of new fragrances with a lot more in-depth style reviews, etc. And for some of these, I've made just a short on. For some of these, I might not make a full review. So if you want to find out more about truly hidden gems, this is exactly the place to be, where I plan on dropping one of these every single week. So let's go ahead and get started with one of the first fragrances I rocked this week. It was really one that was transitioning from the last one into this one, and it's one that I personally love rocking to bed. I mean, this is something that I would reserve more so for special occasions, etc. But it's called Cafe Mystique by Maxim Perfumes. I discovered this one about 3 weeks ago. It was a relatively new launch, actually. I think the brand just started about 3 months ago anyway. And what got my attention is the fact that it's related to Bortnikov perfumes. Also, the ingredients. This is raw stuff, man. There's real ambergris, real deer musk, and real distilled in-house Thailand oud. This smells like coffee to the max, Turkish coffee, along with a nutty, ambery style earthy coffee coming from that Kopi Luwak, and some real ass oud in this fragrance. It lasts all day. You gotta be careful. It does stain clothing, but it just smells like, for me, it smells amazing, man. Ambery, coffee, cardamom, a lot of cardamom, and natural smelling oud. Longevity of this, it lasts all day, man. I wake up and my pillows smell like it, my bed smells like it. It smells amazing. I would personally rock this during like special occasions, dinner dates. I would even rock it during a dinner date. That's just me, okay? It suits me. As far as the price point goes, though, this is about $220, $225 on MaximPerfumes.com. I don't have a coupon code, but maybe potentially if they're willing to give us some discounts for the AROMATIX family, then I will let you guys know. But they're definitely like ultra niche style fragrances, man. They really are next level in-house artisan, or I should say indie style fragrances, okay? Moving on to the next fragrance this week that I decided to rock. This is one that was new and sent over to me by EPC. I met them in Milan, yes, in Italy, and during the convention Essence, and they had this new release, Pistachio Haiku. One of their best fragrances for me, or one of my favorite amber fragrances. This is before I even like got to know them, etc. This is what drove me to want to get to know them, is Amber Iris and Ambre Épicé. So those fragrances and all of their fragrances smells pretty damn natural. I have a thing for natural fragrances, and I'm sure a lot of people out there that are really into fragrance can appreciate something that's natural smelling. And not only that, it lasts a hell of a long time. I don't have anything from them that does not last, period. So I got the chance to sit with them and create this fragrance and make my own, or it was Soleil de Ver, and that's not out yet, I don't believe. It's a vetiver-based fragrance, but Pistachio Haiku is their newest release. It's supposed to be like the summertime pistachio gelato style fragrance, but it's very different. It's not gonna be for everybody, but it is pretty damn unique. You're gonna stand out. I rocked this thing and it lasted 8+ hours. There is no question around the performance. It smells like this pistachio, a little bit of citrus and gelato, but it also has this aromatic basil, if I'm not mistaken, and also very distinctively some kind of vetiver. So it's this green, fresh gourmand. Different. It is definitely different, but I freaking love it. Nutty, green, fresh, different. Lasts all day. It also projects like a champion. And there's also something very addicting interesting to this fragrance, but like I said, distinctively green as well. And I think it's that vetiver that kind of steers us away or towards more so the masculine side of things. So occasions for this, I would rock it for something that's more fun, etc. I rocked all of these fragrances to the gym. I mean, it's a part of my weekly rotation, and weekly or daily, you know, you gotta look good to feel good, to smell good, and it's all intertwined. I go to the gym almost on a daily basis. The only days I take off is when my body tells me, you're not working out today. I literally leave and go, but I'm still making that drive there. So Pistachio Haiku did just fine. It does wear a little bit thicker than, you know, something of just straight up summertime, but even during the summertime, I think you can get away with it. All of their fragrances are 50 mLs, and it's not bad. You get a decent amount, and they last a long time. And they're, I think, for around $150. This is a brand that you can use code AROMATIX for and save some cash. For an indie niche style fragrance, or the quality, I should say, it's absolutely worth the money, man. At the very least, get you a discovery set, and you're bound to fall in love. This is a house that I legitimately smelled every single one of them, and I think it's because they're like not back to the bricks. I don't want to simplify them, but they give you what it says. Like there's spice rose, or for example, amber iris. That's exactly what you're getting. But what you get is the ultimate highest of quality. So rather than fluffing it up and throwing a bunch of accords and etc., they really focus on those accords of the amber and the iris, and they just master it beautifully. And this is no different than the case. It's green pistachio gelato. That's basically what my experience was with Pistachio Haiku. Next one up, this one I can't really say much about. It's gonna be just a quick teaser. This is something that I'm creating. It's gonna be a pretty big deal collab. This is gonna be a pretty big deal, okay? But this is going to be a recreation of something discontinued that I absolutely freaking love. And I'm so heartbroken that it's discontinued, but away with the discontinuation. Who cares? Because it's coming back. But coming back even better. This thing lasted all day, and I think there's only one final touch I want to test. Add a little bit of an oriental spice like cardamom. What? Come on, guys. Who doesn't like cardamom? Let's be real, okay? L'Anouilh de l'Homme, it's a cardamom bomb with some zingy ginger, etc. This, I want it to be, we'll just wait, okay? We'll just wait. But anyways, nevertheless, it smelled amazing. I gave my sister a hug while rocking this fragrance, and at first she was like, oh, okay, I don't know how I feel about it, but she called me later that night. It was like 8 hours later. She's like, whatever you have on, it's still in my hair. It smells really good. So I was like, okay, cool. So that was kind of the deal, you know, sealing the deal in terms of how in love I am with this. I'm gonna go through one more iteration, and then we'll find out exactly what it's going to be. So the goal for this one, for the collab, I'm not sure exactly how much the price range, but hopefully the goal is under $100. And yeah, it's gonna be some beautiful stuff. So that was that fragrance, and we'll move on to the next one. So the next fragrance I decided to rock this week is actually going to be the new releases by Lattafa. So Lattafa released these 3 new fragrances, and I decided to test them, and it was all consecutive, all right? So what I ended up doing with a lot of these is testing them separately, but I also tested it together, and we'll talk about which ones. But first, I decided to rock Pisa, and Pisa, although not leaning, smells pretty good. This is kind of a tribrid fragrance between L'Immensité, also Afternoon Swim, and Bulgari Tiger. Initially, I had just assumed, or I had just felt like this was L'Immensité and the Afternoon Swim because of the fact that Bulgari Tiger is a lot more blue. L'Immensité and Bulgari Tiger do get comparisons often, and if you look at like Smells Like It Reminds Me Of, those are 2 that are generally relatively close. However, I will say that L'Immensité goes less towards the blue musk, although still having a significant dose of musk. Initially, with this fragrance, I didn't get that extreme blue musky nature that I get with Bulgari Tiger, but as it started to dry down, I did get a vibe of almost all 3. I would say that initially it just reminded me of L'Immensité, Afternoon Swim, and it was really good. I have to admit though, whenever I'm looking for a citrus fragrance, I am looking for just citrus. When I'm ever looking for like a musky classical style fragrance, I'm looking for just exactly that. I don't really care too much for the clash just because it's not really my vibe, and the excessive musk and citruses for me sometimes can come off like BO, especially when you're combining grapefruit, exactly that, grapefruit, and maybe a little bit of ginger and musk. It can kind of sometimes do that. Not always the case, and that's not necessarily the case for Bulgari Tiger, but maybe just a little bit. And so for that reason, I appreciate Afternoon Swim separately. I appreciate L'Immensité separately. And Bulgari Tiger, I appreciate a little bit less than those 2 aforementioned ones. And for that reason, a better clone for me personally, and actually the best one for me personally, that if I wanted to kind of go for something else other than Afternoon Swim, it's this one. It's the best one out of all of the ones that they released. It's the Quatre North Stag. I know a lot of people have mixed thoughts, etc., but we're talking about me here. And I personally, if I'm looking for just a super zingy, zesty, not the modern day zesty, but zesty, orange, rind, citruses, etc. I'm going for this one, man. It lasts longer than afternoon swim. It lasts almost all day. I sprayed it on about 12 times. I'm not afraid, okay? And you shouldn't be either. It's not really that offensive. It smells like maybe, you know, 75% afternoon swim or 80% afternoon swim and 20% Silver Mountain water. It's not overly metallic or synthetic. I love this stuff, man. I love it. And so if I want afternoon swim, I'm going for something like this instead. And personally, I enjoy it a bit more than that one because of the fact that it does have that musky nature. So all around as a fragrance, I think that L'Immensité is better than afternoon swim, but for enjoyment factor, I personally enjoy afternoon swim more than L'Immensité because of its natural edge. As stated with other fragrances in the beginning, I love the natural smelling fragrances. And when you have just citruses, of course, it's gonna smell more natural than some musks, etc. And overall, as a fragrance from Louis Vuitton, L'Immensité is definitely better than afternoon swim, especially because the atrocious performance. If afternoon swim performed as well as L'Immensité, which by the way, L'Immensité is beastly, lasts to the next freaking day, then afternoon swim would easily be my #1 fragrance, but it's not. And L'Immensité is for that exact reason. You get the best of all worlds. Sure, it's a little bit muskier than something natural, etc., but generally speaking, natural citruses are not gonna last that long. Regardless of the fact, this smells like a tri-bird between all three. The two that I mentioned is not as blue. However, Bulgari Tiger does go a bit more blue, maybe something of those aromatics, sage or lavender, whatever aromatics is in Bulgari Tiger makes it go a little bit more blue. And Pisa has that later in the dry down. So that's all I think about Pisa. Total longevity for this was like 7-8 hours. It wasn't beastly stuff, but it definitely does last a bit longer than some of the other freshies. And it's likely because of that blue musky nature that helps it do that. Next up that I decided to rock was this one right here, Lattafa Eclaire. This is also brand new. And I decided to wear this one for a couple of days. And the reason being is because of this bad boy right here, which is called Sehr by Lattafa. Now, Eclaire is a very clear-cut Giardini di Toscana Bianco Latte, which I have right here. And I freaking love this stuff. Now, in the opening, you're going to sense pretty much the same thing, literally. It smells like it's like 90 to 95 in the opening. But I will say that this one comes off a bit harsher. It seems like there might be a little bit more ambroxan, but that also means or translates into a better performing fragrance, which it is overall. Overall, this performed better. It absolutely performed better than Giardini di Toscana, but I don't regret this one because as it starts to dry down hour 2, hour 3, this one holds on to like some of the florals, etc., which really, I mean, that's what helped it last long as shit. It lasted longer than this, but ultimately it drops off some of the refinement that this one has overall, and it starts to get a little bit further away from the DNA as it dries down. But for the most part, the fact that it's even this close, this is like niche quality juice, okay? Especially considering that this is niche. As it dries down, I will say that it starts to detach just a little bit, but to the average person, you're not even gonna notice, and it's actually really freaking good. Bianco Latte was amazing. I freaking loved rocking that fragrance, and it lasted, I would say, about 7-8 hours, which is just enough for what I needed. This is beastly stuff though. It's not as refined. Whoa, you don't want to carry by the cap. It's not as refined as Bianco Latte, but I will say that it's beast mode stuff and it outperforms it. So it's up to you which one you want to pick up. In my opinion, they both serve different purposes. And ultimately, I mean, value-wise, obviously, Eclaire gives you a wonderful value. Sacrificing a little bit of refinement, but it's still niche quality stuff, man. It's still niche quality stuff. Performance, it's absolutely beastly. It's gonna last 10+ hours, easily. I sprayed it on like twice before I went to bed. I woke up and it was still engulfing me. Like, it was not even like I had to look for it. It was still there. Beastly stuff. So the next day I decided to crack open Sehr Lattafa, or the 2 days, I don't know. But anyways, that same week I cracked this open. It's called Sehr Lattafa. The presentation on this is actually pretty nice. And I know a lot of their bottles might be gimmicky, etc., but this one's actually nice. It reminds me of a niche Middle Eastern brand or house that has similar bottles. It's called Dar Al-Tib, except they don't have this cap. They have a royal crown style cap. The cap in itself is very heavy. It looks like some Dragon Ball Z shit with this orb or globe or whatever it is, and it snaps onto place. It's actually pretty cool, and it weighs a ton. But the only thing that's atrocious about this is the atomizer. It sucks. It's better than the first time, but still. And when I initially sprayed this on, I was actually kind of confused. I was confused at the fact that this smells like another vanilla fragrance. Wait up, hold up. Did they literally just do the same fragrance in a different bottle? And I was like trying to make sense of it. Why the hell would they do that? Maybe because this one looks a bit femme, maybe guys don't want it, etc. And this is one that, generally speaking, although the notes don't really tell you the truth all the time, or for the most part, they'll just give you what they want to give you, etc. This is one that I tried to at least look at the notes. And it gave me some direction, okay? For the most part, whenever I smell powdered vanillas that are dry, not syrupy, I get that suede. Or it seems like they used some kind of suede accord or notes or whatever it is that they use to recreate a dry, powdered vanilla. And I even get that with the Bianco Latte, the original, and Eclaire. It's a suede accord. Maybe not the note, but it's there for me personally. And that's what I find in common, or for all of these to have in common with something like Baby Cat. Now, I'm not saying that they smell like Baby Cat, but it's just that single accord that they all share in common. This one, however, has different notes of like cinnamon, it has akigala wood, some vanilla, etc. And what this reminded me of, or the notes reminded me of, was Montal's Vanille Absolute. And so I cracked out Vanille Absolute and I started doing some comparisons. And what I noticed is that Vanille Absolute is just a little bit too light, in my opinion, compared to Sehr Lattafa. And so I was like, okay, I definitely sense a little bit of like this Baby Cat. Maybe it's just my relationship with the whole dry suede vanilla. But then I started to mess around with it. I was spraying it on and spraying on some Baby Cat, layering it with this, until I finally found like a decent balance in between both of them that really recreated what Sehr was to me, okay? I sprayed Baby Cat on once and I sprayed Vanille Absolute about 4 times, and that's when I could really smell a similarity to Sehr. So what I truly believe this one to be is a hybrid between both of these. 1 part of Baby Cat, I'm not gonna be too specific, but this is what I put. 1 part Baby Cat and 4 parts Vanille Absolute. So in that retrospect, or in that aspect, I would say that it's about 20% Baby Cat and 80% Montal's Vanille Absolute. Now with Vanille Absolute from Montal, it doesn't last for shit on me. It gives me about 6, 7, top 7 hours, but for the most part, it's about 6 hours, and one of the most disappointing performing fragrances for Montal Vanille Absolute. Now with this fragrance, it didn't give me more than about 7 hours. So sure, it beats the Vanille Absolute, but could it potentially be because it uses a little bit of a denser style vanilla coming from Baby Cat? Maybe. So I'm gonna use the notes to kind of back up or give me some supportive information to my discovery personally, although like I said, man, sometimes they'll give you the notes, sometimes they don't, but take it for what you will. It is what it is. It's got the cinnamon. Vanille Absolute has the cinnamon. It's got the vanilla, obviously it's got the vanilla, but then it also has some of that akigala wood. Now Baby Cat has a lot of peppers. It's got that saffron, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the suede and the vanilla and resin. Akigala wood in itself can kind of resemble oud, but it also has peppery nature to it, or a peppery nature to it. With Vanille Absolute, there aren't any peppers, but there are peppers in Baby Cat. That's an overdose of peppers actually in Baby Cat, along with that suede. So potentially the akigala wood could be giving me, the akigala wood in combination with the vanilla can be giving me the accords that I find it to have in similarity with that Baby Cat. So 20% and 80%. It's still there. It still performs better than Vanille Absolute, that's for sure. But that fragrance is a letdown. For 7 hours, this is solid. The presentation is actually pretty nice. Okay, so that was the Lattafa wares, and I actually compared these side by side because they started getting a little bit close, like I was explaining with the whole powdery, dry vanillas. It kind of helps, or it recreates the similar accords. So I sprayed on Eclaire on one arm and I sprayed on Sehr on the other arm. I kid you not, like Sehr was gone 6.5 hours, Eclaire the entire freaking day. It wasn't even a matchup. Next on this list, or next fragrance that I discovered, was Initio's Oud for Greatness Neo. This is one that I chalked up to like, I'm not even gonna check it out, whatever it is, what it is. Oud for Greatness, that's old news. Really, they're just now doing it, but it's actually an improvement from the original. Now hear me out, it's not going to be something brand new or anything like that, but it's definitely an improvement from the original. That fir resin and the intensified saffron and oud, those 3 accords, make it a significant different fragrance. Make a significant difference. It's not a different fragrance per se, but it's a lot more intense and a lot more packing of a punch. And in today's world, especially with people being over Oud for Greatness, it does kind of rejuvenate and make it a little bit more interesting in comparison to what it was or what it is now. That fir resin really creates or recreates a piney nature to the fragrance, which intensifies the oud, and the saffron is stronger, it's more in your face, and it kind of just, you know, it has more of a bite, period. So when I initially sprayed this on, I knew right away that this is definitely better. Now, although it does have a bit more of a punch, etc., this isn't anything that screams at all. Like I rocked it, I wore it around to, you know, around, and it lasted for maybe like 9 hours, but the projection wasn't anything crazy. The Central, however, is something that's pretty good, but it's still not a beast mode fragrance, at least for now. This is brand new, and unfortunately I spent about 455 bucks, and shortly after, I mean, the next day I saw it on a discounter for 280 bucks, but it's okay. I do this for you guys, and And I do it for us, really. Discoveries, reviews, etc. It is what it is. This is sometimes, it'd be like that sometimes, right? And sometimes when you're at the store, it's a different experience, and that's kind of what it was. I don't regret it per se, but yeah, moral of the story, this is definitely better. If you like more intense fragrances, if you like something that's a bit more masculine as well, because of that piney nature, this definitely does go a bit more masculine. Still though, ladies who enjoy that lumberjack vibe, you might be able to pull it off, but for the most part, it's definitely more masculine. Moving on to the next fragrance that I decided to rock this week. This is also another one that's piney, but it's also woody. It's got Middle Eastern spices like cardamom. It's got a bunch of other accords, including oud. This is Thameen Carved Oud. This one took me by surprise, all right? So initially when I sniffed this DNA, it was through Crafted Oud by Zafiro, the cologne. And I knew right away that it was better than the original. I went to, I think it was Saks in New York when I went to Scent Explore, and I sniffed this fragrance, and I kind of just chalked it up because I wasn't really in love with oud wood, and I just immediately just kind of signed off. When you have something set in your head, man, it's best to go into fragrances with a clear mind. And sometimes I'll revisit and I'll be like, what was I thinking or not thinking? So oud wood, I still don't like it. I don't like it on me personally. On other people, I've smelled it before and I've even complimented them and enjoy it. Crafted Oud though would be criminal to say that it's too close or anything like that, because this, in my opinion, is better. Carved Oud, damn it. Okay, but it definitely has similarities, but it's better. It's more refined, it has more of a body, more of a depth, and that piney nature coming from the additions of like cypress, etc. really helps take away some of that ashy nature, the dry mothball nature of the oud in oud wood. It's still kind of there because that's generally speaking like this oud meleki or this westernized style oud. That's just how it smells, but it just smells so much better in this one because of the fact that there are more contrasting notes or supportive notes as well. Piney coming from that citrus, it has that Middle Eastern spice, but it also has like a cedar undertone coming from that cardamom to my nose personally. It lasts a hell of a long time, much longer than oud wood, and the projection on this is actually enormous, or long lasting, I should say. The projection is a cloud. It's like 3 feet and the entire time. I mean, it lasted for like a good 10 hours, but the cloud was like 4 to 5 hours. Beautiful stuff. And I got a compliment while rocking this, even at the freaking gym. Beautiful scent. I would not personally wear oud wood, but this is one that I enjoyed wearing and I will wear again and again. And if anybody ever asks me about oud wood, I will tell them legitimately, Thameen is much better than oud wood. So although both of these have something in common, the whole piney nature, etc., they are quite different. Neo is a lot more oriental because it has that hefty dose of saffron, which can be polarizing for some people. It also is a more prominent Eastern style oud that's slightly more animalic, and the piney nature of this is more ambery and resinous, whereas the piney nature of this is a bit more dry and will resemble a bit more of like forest vibes rather than just straight up tree sap and resin forest vibes. So definitely are fragrances that have similar style accords, but they are constructed completely differently. So they are definitely different fragrances. Moving on to the next one, and I believe this might be the final one that I decided to wear this week, and some of which, like I said, I will wear like a second fragrance if it doesn't last long. I know that Sehr Lattafa didn't last more than about 6.5, 7 hours, so I decided to rock something else that same day as well. Lastly is this right here. It's Lorenzo Pizzaglia's Sun-Gria. Sun-Gria and Lorenzo Pizzaglia, this is one of their best fragrances, and it's also for good reason. They actually have a lot of hype in the fragrance community, and especially social media, because they have really good fragrances. They genuinely do. I think their oil concentrations is like 40 to like 55%. You guys, it's absolutely crazy. But this 50 ml will run you about 260 bucks, and a small 30 ml is about $165. So it's pretty expensive, but you don't need to spray it as much. This was a beautiful fragrance though. It smells like something that's fruity. It's got wine, it's got grapes, it's got peach. It's got like jungle juice vibes, but a little bit lighter than that. It does seem pretty creamy from a lot of vanilla as well. It almost made me believe that there might be something of coconut, but not to my memory. But wine, all of these accords is very different. I find it to be very unisex, but like I said, you have to enjoy more of those rich fruit style fragrances, close to jungle juice vibes. Beautiful stuff nevertheless, okay? No, beautiful stuff nevertheless. And the performance, absolutely nuclear stuff. This is all day, all freaking day. And if you overspray it, you might gas yourself out. Seriously, that's that strong. 6 sprays is like maximum, all right? The occasions for something like this, I would say springtime is perfect. Maybe even during, I wouldn't say the fall. Springtime, summer nights, etc. That's what I would do. It smells tropical. Tropical vibes written all over it. So the price point, like I said, being the only factor keeping some people away, way, I still think it's a house that you should absolutely try and sample at the very least. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These were the gems or flops of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that you will see some value to this series because it will likely be new fragrances every single episode. Make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button. Till the next one, peace. That was a good one. Oh shit. Well, there goes Eclaire.